I'd like to call to order the October 10th, 2023 regular meeting of the Everett Public School Board of Directors to order. Our first item in section 2.0 is our land acknowledgement. Student Rep Kink will present.
We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Coast Salish, Snohomish, and Tulalip peoples. We express our deepest respect and gratitude to the ancestors on this land, on whose shoulders we stand. In Everett Public Schools, we strive to create equitable outcomes and build a culture of inclusive belonging for all students, teachers, staff, and community.
Thank you very much, Student Rep Kink. We'll now move to section 3.0, which is our flag salute. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please remove your hats. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excuse me, but please remain civil. Remember, this is a school board meeting. Your students are looking at this meeting via Zoom as well as in person. We will now have the roll call. Will the secretary please call the roll?
President Lassane.
Present.
Vice President Mitchell.
Present.
Director Herman.
Present.
Director Mason.
Present.
Student Representative King.
Present.
Student Representative Gilbertson.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Our next item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Saltzman, would you please introduce the agenda?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and to the public. Tonight's agenda contains the following: the superintendent's report, segment for board comments, segment for public comments, segment for legislative updates, segment for routine business, segment for strategic progress monitoring, segment for information and discussion, segment for new business, segment for upcoming agenda items, and a closed session. Since publishing the agenda, the following changes was made to the agenda. Item 13.01, enrollment update as of October 1, 2023. The enrollment count was updated. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Saltzman. There is a glitch in tonight's agenda in that our recognition participants have yet to arrive. What we would like to do is move section 7.0, which is the superintendent's report, before the recognition and have the recognition follow. With that being said, is there a motion for the adoption of the agenda with that being made?
So moved.
Seconded.
It's been moved by Director Mason and seconded by Director Herman to adopt the agenda with the following changes. Superintendent's report will appear above recognition, followed by recognition section 6.0. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to the vote. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries. The agenda is adopted with the mentioned changes. We'll now move to section 7.0, Superintendent's Report.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and to the public this evening. October is Principals Appreciation Month. Please join us in celebrating our amazing, kind, hardworking, supportive, and all-around stellar school principals in their month. We're grateful for their leadership, support, and passion for student learning. We just started the instructional review process. Our instructional reviews have begun. The first one was at View Ridge Elementary School. Very proud of the entire staff as we continue visiting the schools in a fantastic instructional review for the first one. Congratulations to WAEA 2023 Art Educator of the Year Award winners. Andrea Guerra, art teacher at Jefferson Elementary School, was named Elementary Art Teacher of the Year. And Tammy Kaufman, Visual and Performing Arts Facilitator, named Supervision and Administrative Art Educator of the Year by the WAEA. These prestigious awards recognize the outstanding dedication, professionalism, innovation, service, advocacy, and excellence in arts education. Megan Vinter, Everett High School's band director, won first place at Quadre's 2023 International Composition Contest with her piece of How Can a Girl? Inspired with a number of these times, she has been questioned about her ability to be successful at her job based on her gender. Congratulations for her winning that international award. High school and beyond events started last week with the first event at Cascade High School. Tomorrow night, there'll be one at Jackson High School, and Everett High School is scheduled for October 24th. Students and families have opportunities to connect with colleges, universities, trade schools, and apprenticeships from the state of Washington as well as other states. So if you get a chance to come out, please do that. Let's Connect on October 17th. Our first Let's Connect will be on October 17th and hosted by each regional superintendent. The strategic plan will be a framework as we share the amazing work being done by everybody across the district and in our schools. It's a great opportunity for our families to interact with the community and give feedback to us on the work of the strategic plan and the work of the district. School recognitions. On October 2nd, we were honored and thanked our custodial workers in the Everett Public School System for the care they gave each day, making our schools shine and clean and ready for learning. World Teachers Day was on October 5th. I cannot thank our teachers enough for teaching and guiding our future generations on World Teacher Day on October 5th. This week is School Lunch Week, and we have the best food and nutrition team who constantly work together trying different recipes to make sure that kids eat and stay focused during the day. So please, as you know, as they get their nutrition, it is School Lunch Week for this week. Also, as the mornings get darker, and we need to be a little vigilant when the school buses are out, okay? A little darker in the morning, a little darker at night soon. So please, to our community, when in doubt, please stop when you see those red lights. They're going to be flashing, and that stop paddle board is out. Please stop as it gets darker in the morning and in the evening. And the Modest Free Market, you may not know about the Modest Free Market. The Modest Free Market Family Solutions is an organization working to create more of just equitable food system for our community and students. Produce is available the first and third Saturday of every month from 9 to 11 a.m. and that will be hosted at Emerson Elementary School. Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the board.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salzman. Ms. Reeves, are we?
It looks like we have one of three, so we can proceed with the one at this time if you would like. Okay.
That would be nice. Thank you. We will now have recognitions in section 6.0. Our presenter is Ms. Kathy Reeves.
There's two of three now. So if I
That's
talk
okay.
slow enough, maybe we'll have three.
Talk slow.
Starting this year, we have decided to have schools nominate students who exemplify our core values. And we started this year with September being respect. So every school nominated one of their students that exemplified respect. And then we're going to have 3 schools every month come and share those students with you. So tonight we have 2 or 3, but also all of them are listed. If you look at the celebrations page under our district, they're all listed on that page. So they can all be recognized, but it's too much to have 28 kids here every month. So we're going to start tonight with Kelly Shepard and move to Dr. Jessica Gideon and then Cindy Foster.
Good afternoon. It is my privilege to introduce you to Deborah Vasulakamba, who's here tonight by her guardians, her auntie and uncle, Asari and Nia Kunawave. Rakova means respect in Fijian. O Deborah Igona da Vakaruko Ruko, Fijian for Deborah is respect. When Fijian culture is described, you hear about its warmth and humility that is attributed to strong devotion to faith. Deborah exudes warmth, humility, and faith. She has an attitude of gratitude and servitude to our communities that she identifies with. She excels in her classes, including AVIDS in 7th grade, advanced leadership, multiple advanced placement classes, college and the high school. She is a leader formally in our school as the Pacific Islander Club president for the 2nd year in a row, as well as led our efforts in our multicultural night last spring, and we're counting on her to deliver again this spring. She's an informal leader in our school. She greets peers and others warmly and friendly. The 2nd week of school, a brand new student had a personal tour throughout our campus by Deborah, welcoming her to be part of the Everett High School community. Today, we celebrate Deborah for her Rakova, respect, and all she brings to our school, our district, our community, and her family. She was FaceTiming with her mom as she was walking into the board meeting. And so we celebrate her today on the 53rd anniversary of Fijian independence from Britain. So please join me in recognizing Deborah.
Good evening. It is with great pleasure that I introduce one of our exceptional students, James Williams, who is here and represented by his family and his teacher. James has been recognized for his embodying the core value of respect. James has consistently demonstrated his commitment to fostering a culture of respect within our school community. He has earned this award through his unwavering kindness and empathy towards his peers, teachers, and staff. James consistently listens to others. He values their opinions and treats everyone with the utmost courtesy and consideration. His ability to create an inclusive and welcoming environment for all is truly commendable. James has also been a passionate advocate, 4th grade advocate, for tolerance and understanding. He is always taking a stand against bullying or discrimination against his peers of any kind. He is not only respectful of individual differences, but he actively works to promote them as strengthening his community and his classroom and school. He is genuine and consistent display of respect towards others, serves as an inspiration to us all. James, as your principal, I am proud to have you as a student and a role model in my school community. Please welcome me in congratulating James on this well-deserved recognition, and thank you, James, for setting such a positive example for Madison Elementary.
Hello, I'm Cindy Foster, principal at Mill Creek Elementary, and this is Pahel Thatcher from Mill Creek. And she has so many amazing characteristics. I want to read a little bit about her. Pahel shows respect in so many aspects of school life and is a very deserving winner. I asked Puhel's current 5th grade teacher, Mr. Johnson, and last year's teacher, Mrs. Full, to give us some words that would give us insight into why Puhel is the school's choice for demonstrating respect. Here's what they had to say. Puhel radiates respect every day through her actions with everyone she meets. Not only does she demonstrate respect during lessons by listening with her whole body, patiently waiting to contribute to conversations and following directions, but she also enjoys helping others, honoring our learning differences and working cooperatively to advance her own learning and learning of those around her. She contributes to our school-wide vision of Cougar Pride, and she is a model citizen at Mill Creek. And that was Mr. Johnson's words. Moving on to Mrs. Full's words, she said, I had the honor of working with Puhel for 2 years during her 3rd and 4th grade years experience. During that time, I witnessed Puhel demonstrating respect daily. She embodies the golden rule of treating others as she wants to be treated. She is kind, compassionate, and values others' contributions to discussions. She knows how to agree and disagree with others in a respectful way using accountable talk. Puhel respects the process of learning and takes it very seriously. She consistently produces her very best work and takes pride in doing a careful and thoughtful job. She shows respect for all adults at MCE as well. She demonstrates cougar pride and is a leader and role model for others. This can be seen when she is doing patrol, when she performs at our multicultural night, and when she works in small groups with her peers on the playground and in the classroom. Puhel is an amazing human, and she is so thrilled that she is being acknowledged for being a respectful student at MCE. We can all learn so much from her. So I'm very proud of you, and you embody respect, and we just are so happy to honor you tonight.
If we could have the three principals and the students come up front, we'll get a picture of you with the board, and families, feel free to come up here and take pictures rather than on the side.
Great job, everybody.
Yes,
Great job.
indeed. Great job. Congratulations. James, Deborah, Puhel, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Okay, that's perfect. 1, 2, 3. Families, you can squeeze in there.
Nice job.
We'll now move to section 8.0, which is board comments. The purpose of this agenda item is for directors and student representatives to have the opportunity to share what they have encountered through their work in the district, in schools, as well as in the community as it pertains to work of the board. Comments should be kept brief. So hearing that, Student Rep King, would you like to go first?
For sure.
Okay, fantastic.
Things have been going really well. We're at a good time in the year where we get to celebrate our school's homecoming. Our school leadership and myself spent a lot of time planning the Spirit Week and the dance. We got a really large turnout, and it was exciting to see a high student morale and lots of school spirit this last week. Jackson also won their homecoming football game as well. I attended it, and it was a very exciting atmosphere. Along with football, our other fall sports, tennis, soccer, volleyball, and cross country have been doing great. I'm on the tennis team. We have a really good winning streak right now, and we're about to send 6 people to districts. A few weeks ago, student leadership also met with the superintendent and his team to talk about technology use in the district, and it's pretty clear we're making a lot of progress, and I'm liking the results from that. And yeah, I'm really excited to see what the rest of the month has in store.
Thank you very much, Student Rep King. Director Mason.
I don't have any comments for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Herman.
Right, thank you. A few things. Earlier in September, I got to see the Garden Build kickoff event at Mill Creek Elementary School. This was part of a $20,000 grant from Sprouts Healthy Communities Foundation to support school gardens. A big thank you to Sprouts and the Mill Creek Elementary PTA for partnering in that work, and really looking forward to seeing how those garden beds can be incorporated into STEAM education there. Also in September, I was able to attend the open house community event at Jackson Elementary School, where we saw some aerial plans for the new school building. Not just parents attended, but there were several people there just from the community and were curious about the plans and had some great questions. So thanks to Mike Gunn and his team for putting that together and all the work that's already been done to move that forward. It was interesting to hear some of the constraints that school property has and all the planning and adjustments that have been needed to accommodate some of those features. This morning, I was able to take part back at Jackson Elementary School for the instructional review, and that was my first one for the year. I went back, so this is for the board, I went back to my notes from our August board retreat, because one of the questions we discussed for our own assessment was to what extent our board ensures a high degree of coherence between district plans and the school improvement plans. And we had discussed that over the summer. And to me, the IRs is really where we see that alignment. It was so clear. Hats off to the Jackson Elementary team. The teachers are really top notch in using instructional strategies to engage the students and really build positive classroom environments. It was really fantastic to see. And tomorrow I get to go out to Cedarwood for their IR. So looking forward to that. And then lastly, this afternoon, I was able to meet with Nancy Brown, our transportation supervisor, and I got to see one of our electric buses in action and talk to her about how that was going so far. And as was pointed out, the e-buses are really quiet and smooth, and the plugging charging has been working out well. So that was really neat to see, and I'm glad that we've been able to try those in our district. It will be interesting to see how the bus batteries work over the winter with the cold weather and with the heaters running, but so far it's been great. So a big thank you to Nancy and all of our bus drivers for getting our students to school safely each and every day. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Mitchell.
Yeah, I don't have anything to report, but I just want the community to confirm for the community on Thursday, we are interviewing 5 candidates for our open seat due to Director Nichols having to leave us for personal reasons. I think we have 5 excellent candidates. There is a time for public comment, and just want to make sure that is an open public meeting for all of us to hear from these candidates. And just want to make sure that people know that we are actively looking for somebody to fill that seat. I'm very thankful again, and we look forward to any public participation.
Thank you very much, Director Mitchell. Well, I too also had the opportunity to attend one of our IRs at Woodside Elementary, and I can truly say it was a wonderful IR. The school looks amazing. It's just gorgeous. And you're right. Looking at what our priorities, our student outcome priorities, and how they jive with the school's improvement plans is very important, and they need to be linked. And I'm certain that they are, at Woodside indefinitely. And I would also like to do a congratulations to Andrea Aguilera, Tammy Kaufman, and Mega Venter for continuing the arts here in Everett Public Schools and the outstanding work that they're doing to be awarded recognition such as Teacher of the Year, Art Teacher of the Year, and international awards as well. So congratulations to them. We shall now move to section 9.0, which is our public comments section. The board specifically sets aside this time during our regular meeting to hear from constituents. We do this because we value input. We want to hear and understand your perspective. Our board meetings are designed to conduct district business in public. We welcome ideas and opinion. Please remember that this time we listen to what you have to say. We are not here to debate or discuss an issue. The board members will not respond to individual comments. It is for the school board meetings designed to conduct district business only, but we will take your comments back and listen to them. Our meetings are being recorded, so it is asked that you do not continually repeat what you've already said, because we can go back and review what has been presented. Please remember your students are listening. Students are listening here in the boardroom as well as online or even after the meeting. It is requested that you be civil and that you respect the allotted time that you have to present your presentation. You will be given 3 minutes. The first blip will indicate that your time is started. The second blip, which is orange in color, will indicate that you have 30 seconds left. And when the red blip comes on, that means your 3 minutes are up. There are 5 people who have been asked to present commentation. The first one is from Ms. Sarah Scott. She will be talking on the SEIU bargaining updates. She is an employee of the district. Ms. Scott, please come forward.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Sarah Scott, and I am a CTE and Special Services Field Technician with Everett Public Schools. As you may have noticed, there are quite a few individuals here, either representing or standing in solidarity with SEIU. Being an active member of the SEIU bargaining team, we have been locked in the throes of negotiation with the district for nearly half a year. While we have come to agreement on some proposals, others have become stale. Each time we meet, the district has made it clear that they are not willing to budge on important key items. With that, we are unable to make true progress, and the frustration of our members is rising. We all know that our district prides itself on having the highest paid teachers and the diversity of our staff and students. While we absolutely should be proud of these things, it doesn't acknowledge that we would not be where we are today without assistance and representation from the equally diverse classified members of staff. Per the board note summary sent to EPS staff on May 10th, it was stated that salaries would remain competitive and that salary adjustments remain equitable between groups despite the size of the group. Every employee is respected and valued and equal levels, and everyone should be included in equitable salary increases. In negotiations, it has been clear that the district does not intend to align with the views of the board, and unlike other groups within our district, SEIU does not currently have set wage scales with clear step progression. On May 9th, the board approved a 3.7% IPD increase for 6 groups, and each of these groups include wage scales with a minimum variance of 3% across steps. For example, when comparing the current Prof Tech salary schedule to last year, a first-year Level 1 Prof Tech employee for the 22-23 school year saw an increase of 9.15% in pay for the current school year. Many, if not all of our members are working paycheck to paycheck. Some have had to find second jobs and other sources of income, myself included. Others have had to pull out loans in order to relieve financial strain due to rising costs within our area. Likewise, we are painfully aware of the financial hardships all public schools are facing in Washington state. We have felt that with our staff reductions, we have felt that with high turnover rates, and we have felt it as our workloads have doubled or even tripled. The increasing workload and resulting burnout among our members has hindered their ability to provide the necessary support and assistance that our students and teachers rely on. It has also created an environment of heightened stress and low morale, which has a drastic impact on our district. With that, I implore the board to work closely with the administration to approve meaningful wage increases for our dedicated groups of classified employees. It is essential that we recognize the invaluable contributions and tireless efforts of our members in sustaining quality service to our district. By providing reasonable wage increases, we can not only address immediate concerns, but also demonstrate our commitment to fostering a supportive and thriving educational community for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. We'll now move on to our second speaker. That's Christian Hoover. He is an employee of the district at Everett High School. He's coming to talk about contract negotiation considerations.
Good evening. Thank you for your time to speak with you tonight. My name is Chris Hoover, and I'm the Everett High School 1-to-1 Field Tech and a proud member of the SEIU 925 Union. I have had the pleasure of working alongside the people you see here tonight for the last 7 years. Together, we work as a team to provide the optimum learning environment for students that attend Everett Public Schools. Over the last couple of years, we have seen inflation cut into our wages. The increasing costs at the supermarket, gas pump have had a significant impact on our members. Mortgage and auto loan rates have climbed to the highest they've been in 20 years. We recently received notices that our insurance premiums will increase in the coming year. All these factors have caused many of our members to take on second jobs or make hard financial decisions impacting themselves and their family. When it comes down to it, it's people like all of us here tonight that make learning possible at schools. Providing a safe, clean environment keeping students fed so they're ready to learn, helping students and staff with technology issues, and working one-on-one with students to remove barriers to learning. These are all essential duties that go hand in hand with our wonderful teachers and administrators that make Everett Public Schools successful. We are asking for fair wage increases to keep pace with growing expenses to help retain our coworkers and to get more people to fill the open positions that we have. We are also asking that Juneteenth be added as a paid holiday in recognition of the end of slavery, as it has been done in many of our neighboring school districts. Thank you again for allowing me to voice our membership's concerns with you tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Hoover. We'll now move to Jill Jackson. She's an employee of the district at Cascade High School. She's talking about para living wages.
Thank you. My name is Jill Jackson. I'm a paraeducator at Cascade High School in the Chief program. I've been with the district for 30 years. As a vice president of the Public School Employees of Washington, Everett EAP, I am speaking on behalf of nearly 600 paraeducators and classified staff here tonight. You will see our members wearing blue in solidarity with SEIU Local 925 in purple. We are passionate about our work and we give our all for our Everett students. Per Everett Public Schools Policy 0100, this board commits to provide system-wide direction, support oversight, and shared accountability to advance equity and eliminate inequities in Everett Public Schools. I am here tonight to ask you to do just that. Despite the critical role that we play in the classroom, most paraeducators do not earn a living wage. In a September 28th press release from OSPI, a study was cited from the American Institutes for Research that found that the average paraeducator in Washington earns a salary of less than $30,000. Teachers in Everett have some of the highest wages in the state. Why not Everett paras? This inequity is something our union has tried to address with the district during bargaining, which began in March of this year. We have presented wage comparisons and data about these inequities, but unfortunately, we have made little progress in terms of achieving competitive wages for paraeducators. I am concerned about what is happening in Everett and that it will ultimately be the students who suffer as employees seek livable wages in surrounding areas. Turnover here in Everett due to wage inequity is a real issue. On average, we see 50 to 60 open positions that cannot be filled because we are so far behind our neighboring districts. To fill them, we shouldn't have to contract out para positions because of low wages. Our students deserve better than that. If this inequity is not addressed in Everett, turnover will become a bigger issue. And like I said, it will be the students that suffer. I am going to leave you tonight with a quote from State Superintendent Chris Reckdahl. Our legislature has made monumental progress in competitive salaries for certificated teachers. Our work can't end there. Ask anyone in a school and they will tell you what a critical role that paraeducators hold in the school community as a state, and we cannot continue to lose talented staff because the salary isn't competitive. The employees in this room tonight and those who work throughout the district deserve competitive wages that recognize their contributions and dedication to our students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. We will now hear from Charlotte Gregoris. Georges.
My name is Charlotte Georges. I'm a MLL paraeducator at Monroe Elementary and have worked for the district for 9 years. I serve as secretary of the Public School Employees of Washington Everett EAP chapter, and I am proud to speak on behalf of our hard-working members here tonight. We are also proud to stand with our union family from SEIU Local 925. You heard Jill talk about inequity in Everett, specifically when you look at the gap between what teachers and paras are paid. I would like to address that further. A priority area in the budget proposal released by Superintendent Reichel on September 28th noted paraeducators make up 1 in 5 employees in a school district, and we provide direct instructional support to students working in partnership with certificated teachers to ensure all student needs are met. But if you look at step 9 on the teacher salary schedule and step 9 on the paraeducator schedule, you will find a 277% salary difference. This inequity only grows as you go farther up the salary schedule. There is a 343% wage difference between the highest paid teachers in Everett versus the highest paid paraeducators in Everett. Also, a regionalization factor is applied to teachers' base salary, but not for paras. Why not? This is my community too. I live 3 blocks from my school, but even renting, let alone buying a home, is becoming increasingly difficult, if not impossible, for paraeducators. After McCleary, many of our teachers got what they described as a life-changing salary increase. Sadly, paras have never experienced that. We are struggling and we can't fall further behind. Everett is not keeping pace with surrounding school districts. As Jill also mentioned, not having a livable wage means employees are sourcing employment to other districts that pay more, which is a loss of talent and skill. Competitive wage recruits candidates with highly developed and desirable skill sets. Our students in Everett deserve no less. But the paraeducator who gives so much to the students with the most needs are forced to sacrifice family time and seek second jobs to make ends meet. That doesn't sound like equity to me. We stand in solidarity with teachers and we value our relationships as partners in education, but we deserve to be able to live in the communities that we serve. I urge you to listen to our members' stories so you understand why we are taking action tonight. We want you to know what is going on in our schools and how students and staff alike are being impacted due to this increasing inequity.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gregor.
Thank you. Georges.
Georges, thank
No
you very
problem.
much, Ms. Georges. Excuse me for mispronouncing your name. Don't worry, it's not easy. The next speaker is Gina, and I need you to let me know how to pronounce your last name. Detler? Detler. And she is an employee of the district at Eisenhower Middle, and she's here to talk about para contracts, wage, and safety.
Good evening. My name is Gina Detler, and I would like to thank you for this time tonight. I've worked for the district since 2015, starting off as a para in the SPED preschool, and then since 2018, I've worked in the health room at Eisenhower Middle School. I love my job and I love the students. You've heard from my fellow paraeducators this evening about wage inequity, and I'm here to share how this inequity is negatively impacting student safety. As we lose paraeducators to other districts because of livable wages, we are left with sizable staffing shortages across our buildings. At Eisenhower, we have multiple one-to-one paras. One of those positions is currently staffed by an agency para because there's no para for the position. Another is being staffed by a district nurse. This nurse will be with him for the foreseeable future because he cannot find a paraeducator to fill the position. This student the nurse works with is in a wheelchair. She must lift him by herself multiple times a day. She has talked to the admin multiple times about needing assistance, but with no one else trained in the building on how to properly lift this student and no para is available to help her, it falls on her. This is a safety issue for both her and the student. Our building used to have 3 recess paras on for recesses, but one quit 2 years ago, and we've never hired the third. A few weeks ago, the remaining 2 paras were both out sick at the same time. Admin decided that all students would have to go outside after a certain amount of time during lunch, since we are short-staffed due to no paras. Usually students can choose whether they stay inside or go outside. That day I had a brand new diabetic, brand new. He did not know the school or the situation. By the time he got through lunch line, came to me to calculate his carbs and dose his units of insulin, it had been 18 minutes. He went back to the cafeteria and was given a few short minutes to finish his lunch when an announcement was made that all students had to go outside. He threw away his lunch. I thankfully was in the cafeteria, got him a new lunch and told him that that was not okay. We needed to eat the food because otherwise he would have crashed. This is a safety issue but we did this because we had a staff shortage. That's not all. The morning para runs breakfast for the entire school by herself. She's left to monitor the students who show up for free breakfast. Our school receives free breakfast and free lunch. Some mornings it can be 50 kids and the other mornings it can be hundreds. This morning I got to work at a few minutes to 8. She was radioing for help and an office staff member ran out to help her and admins were in meetings. This is not okay. This is not safe. These are just a few examples of the safety issues I've seen arise at my own building that are directly related to the lack of staffing. We are losing employees and not replacing them, and this negatively impacts our students and safety. We were told that budget cuts would not affect safety or learning, but it has become an issue. And as we grow over time, this board administration needs to help us. I know several paras who've chosen to become teachers solely because they realize they can't survive on our wages. And I'm happy for them. Becoming a teacher is a great career path, but it should be a choice that is made not from necessity to survive and live in our community.
Thank you, Ms. Detmer. Thank you very much for your comments, and thank you very much for attending this board meeting this evening. We'll now move to section 10.0, which is legislative updates. Director Herman.
Thank you, President Lassane. Before I talk about WASD's General Assembly, I wanted to share a positive update from the federal level, and especially that this is school lunch week. Seems appropriate. The U.S. Department of Agriculture announced 2 weeks ago that the community eligibility provision regulations are being amended from 40% to 25% beginning later this month. This is the threshold for our national school free breakfast and lunch program. The rule gives more high-need schools the option to elect CEP and offer all students healthy school meals at no cost to the student. WASDA felt that advocacy from Washington State during this process played a significant role in helping bring about this rule change. So this is obviously a positive step forward, and Washington legislature has been increasing school meal access for K-12 students in recent years with the passage of breakfast after the bell in 2018, House Bill 1878 in 22 that required schools to participate in CEP if eligible. And last year, House Bill 1238, which I had updated you all on, which was introduced first as providing free school meals for all, but then if you remember during session, it was sort of scaled back to phase in lower thresholds. So this moves things forward from a federal level. So that was some nice news to share.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, so, and next, as you know, the WASDA General Assembly was held September 22nd and 23rd. This was done as a hybrid meeting this year, and there was record attendance. And I think we all have attended now WASDA, and we can imagine what that is like. The bylaws changed, going to one board, one vote, removing the weighted votes. That did pass at about 75%. To give you a sense on that, it was the first item on the agenda, and we got to that at around 2:30 on Friday. So a lot of discussion, proposed amendments, clarifying questions, as you can imagine. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects the advocacy of WASDA going forward, with small districts given equal voice as larger districts, and how WASDA's voice may change over time. We got through all 48 items and some of the new legislative positions, including that passed include statements around supporting and amply funding measures that provide comprehensive education, counseling, and ongoing support services for students considering or pursuing self-harm or suicide, as well as support for school communities affected by this. Positions around preventing substance abuse and overdoses. Some delegates spoke passionately about how this was affecting their communities. Also positions supporting policies and legislation that promotes and again amply funds safe routes to schools, including sidewalks, bike paths, and traffic and speed calming measures. Director Mason, both of those proposals that you had called out, they both passed, so very similar. So a big thank you to WASDA President Ron Mabry from the Kennewick School District for presiding over the meeting and getting us through the business of the association. So for now, for WASDA, we have 123 legislative priorities and directors. You have received the information. We're asking for feedback by tomorrow on, you don't have to rank those priorities. Up to 15, if you could just indicate which ones you would like to be sent on. What will happen is those will be sent to WASDA, and then November 3rd is when they should release their legislative priorities. And what we'll do is we'll figure out ours for Everett, and there will likely be some overlap for some advocating for legislation this year. So it was a great General Assembly and really interesting to see. So thank you.
I had a clarifying question regarding that prioritization, because I looked at that today, this morning. And so that is for WASDA specifically, or are we using that for our own platform as well?
I would say both, because I
Okay.
think what that's doing is that's indicating what we feel as directors are our priorities.
Okay.
And there will naturally be some overlap with WASDA, but hopefully we can combine those efforts along with Superintendent Rakedal's, also his priorities that he's already released. And I think having some of that overlap is going to be really powerful. And I'd love to connect with some other school districts on this as well.
Where will we find that information, Rakedal's requests?
It's on the OSB website, and we can make sure to send that out. There's some good position statements on each one of those.
I can probably find it, but.
Yeah. So it'll be good. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Herman. Appreciate that. We now move to section 11.0, which is consent agenda. Dr. Salzman, would you provide an introduction of the consent agenda?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and to the public this evening. The board's consent agenda includes repetitive business items such as meeting minutes, personnel actions, expense vouchers, surplus lists, gifts, grants, and recurring contracts. Sometimes includes items that occur less frequently but are of routine business nature. These items are usually reviewed by the board in the Friday report 1 or more weeks before the board meeting. This gives directors time to ask staff questions or to consider discussion about the policy implications of those items. The board votes on the consent agenda in a single motion. By its definition, the consent agenda is not debatable. In the case of this consent agenda, the superintendent's office received and answered one question regarding revisions to policy 5010, affirmative action and non-discrimination. The consent agenda is presented as published for board approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salzman. A motion to adopt the consent agenda is now in order.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Director Mitchell and seconded by Director Mason to approve the consent agenda. Does any director wish to remove an item from the consent agenda, place it into new business of this agenda to be read and heard? Hearing none, we'll now proceed to the vote. All those in favor of the motion, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. The motion carries. The consent agenda has been approved. We'll now move to our section 12.0, which is strategic progress monitoring. We do have a presentation on post-secondary enrollment patterns from Dr. Jeannie Willard.
Okay, with that, good evening, Dr. Saltzman, President Lassane, Board of Directors, and student representative. I'm really happy to share our post-secondary enrollment patterns and share with you the work that's been taking place this year and prior years related to this. The objectives for this evening are to report our post-secondary enrollment aspirations, to report comparisons of post-secondary enrollment rates for the classes of 2010 through 2021, also to report the patterns of enrollment specifically for the class of 2021. We'll do a close-up on that particular class because it's the most recent data that we have that's very comprehensive. We'll report the FAFSA completion rates, and then I'll have a chance to describe post-secondary enrollment systems of support. All of this is aligned to reducing the gaps between groups of students and also ensuring that our students are prepared for college and career and a successful life. To set the stage, Washington State is actually very focused on some of the same things that we are focused on as well. Statewide, what you'll see is that 90% of students who are surveyed show that they aspire to go on to college or a post-secondary credential. 50% of our students in the state, however, are going on to a post-secondary institution. And then, I guess sadly, it's hard to say it otherwise, 49th in the whole country in terms of FAFSA completion rates for our state. So this is a leading indicator that you'll see in our own data in terms of college and post-secondary enrollment. The data that I'll have a chance to share with you tonight really comes from the Education Research and Data Center. It's published online. There's many dashboards related to this. Also our own National Student Clearinghouse data, which we use through our Naviance tool. In addition, we have self-reported data that comes through Naviance and through Equal Opportunity Schools, which is our partner when we work on ensuring students have access to rigorous course taking. We also have data that comes through the state that it allows us to see FAFSA completion rates. We are unable to see data that has to do with the Washington application for student financial aid. This is normally students who are undocumented or do not have social security numbers, but it does tell us that that is being supported. So starting with the frame around Washington State, for our district, our college aspirations, we survey students each fall through Equal Opportunity Schools. And so for all of our students last year in the fall who were surveyed, we also saw college aspirations close to 90%. We also saw, because we have our own data, that different groups of students report those aspirations differently. And also we have finer, more granular data that focuses on whether students are focused on 2-year, which is that lighter color towards the top of each bar, 4-year degrees, that center in each of the bars, and then advanced degrees. You can see that many of our students are actually very interested in advanced degrees and 4-year degrees of different kinds. When you look at our post-secondary enrollment rates and compare them to the state, what you'll see is that for our most recently reported data for the class of 2021, that we do see a decline below 60%, but largely our data has been consistent in the low 60s over the many years. And even prior to 2010, if you were to look back all the way to 2005, which is where we see our data go from, these are similar rates throughout that time period with some growth right before the pandemic. What you'll see for the state is that the most recent data, there were larger declines that we didn't experience as a district. For the class of 2021, you see data that is very similar to all the other years that are reported, even going back as far as 2005, which is that our students stay in state. And perhaps in part, we have a strong system of institutions nearby, which may not be available in many other communities. And so with that, we see students stay here, maybe not always directly in this community, but many of them do. So taking a turn on that data, what you'll see is that out of the students who go on, you'll see sort of a 50-50 split here. It's not exact, but largely this has been how it's been divided over the years. So 48% of our students go on to the community and technical or 2-year colleges in our system, and 52% go on to the four-year institutions. And you can notice in that data that many of our nearby neighbors are actually where our students go to complete their credentials. So Everett Community College at 26% of our students going on. And then second to that is the University of Washington. That includes all of their campuses, including the Bothell campus, which is very close by as well, so at 22%. And then you can see some of the other schools that many of which are very close by. The next few slides break apart some of that data that we saw for the class of 2021 that had a post-secondary enrollment rate of 51%. The patterns that will show up in the next slides, this one and three more, are very similar to what you would see in prior years. There are not sizable changes in this data. So with that, we see disparities in groups of students. We see that our Asian students are very represented in terms of going on to post-secondary enrollment. And then you see, for some of our groups, a very low number, Hispanic, and those reporting as other, this is what ERDC presents back to us as a group, are much lower than other groups. By gender, what you'll see are similar patterns over the years, that our female students are going on for post-secondary credentials, and that our male students, at about the same rate, at 50%, which we've seen over many years, are not going. It's usually about a split when we look at their data over the many years. So again, for the class of 2021, you can see it broken out by programs that we have. So students qualifying for free and reduced meals and those who are not. So you can see the difference there. Our multilingual learner students, as well as non-multilingual, and students with disabilities, and non-students with disabilities. And of course, for any one of these groups, students could be in multiple categories as well. One of the predictors for going on for a post-secondary credential is GPA. And so aligned with that, one of the pieces of data that we're able to look at closely is students, whether they have a GPA greater than 3.0, and you can see with that we see about 70%, just short of that, go on for a post-secondary credential. But students with a GPA of less than 3.0 are much less likely to go on for a post-secondary credential. For the class of 2021, we also take note of those going on who have self-reported that they're going to go on for military enlistment. And so with that, we had 19 students in their final high school and beyond plan survey who said that they were going to go on. We don't have any confirming data, but this is how we track it. So with that, you can see the split, and the Navy being the most sizable number, although they're all small numbers. So there you go, President Lassane. And with that, I want to also share some hopeful data. I think this is a leading indicator for where we are, where we're going to go. On the slide, it's circled 2021 because we've highlighted that data. That's the data that we've had pretty comprehensively in the last slides. But what we have for the FAFSA completion data is the data for the next 2 years after that. And so if you remember, our post-secondary enrollment rate for 2021 was 59%. And this slide will show you that we also had much lower FAFSA completion rates. And then after that, we have seen increases again, much more in line with pre-pandemic FAFSA completion rates. And I can tell you a lot of time and effort is spent by many groups organizing after school, during the day events to support FAFSA completion. And we'll continue that work. And this year, unlike prior years, our FAFSA will open in December. They're changing the tool. They're trying to make it a lot more user-friendly. And all of us are getting very trained on it so that we can support students and their families in completing it. To highlight some of the supports, I think it's good to know that our graduation requirements, which are also aligned with the state graduation requirements, are also aligned with post-secondary readiness. All three pillars that you see here that go into a student graduating are lined up with students being prepared for their post-secondary plans. Very obviously, the high school and beyond plan is their plan for the future, and all of the steps they take starting in 6th grade and going through their senior year with college and career readiness allow them to explore what might be options for the future. The credit and subject area requirements are aligned with the college academic distribution requirements, which are the requirements for post-secondary enrollment. And then lastly, our graduation pathway options, which are many of those assessment options and also course taking that allow students to show that they've met the requirements for graduation, especially in the areas of English language arts and math, are all aligned for that post-secondary readiness. I wanted to highlight, it's kind of beloved to me, the College and Career Readiness Seminar. This is a requirement in our district. It's something that's a real hallmark of our district, actually. I spend a lot of time with other districts and they envy that we should have a place for students to really explore their futures, especially up against the time in which they're about to transition away from our schools. So with that, we start this entire process much before senior year, but it does culminate in that last year. And in the course, there are large units, there's lots of different pieces that go into this, but a key piece is really planning the pathway. This is the part where students really fill out applications, get support. They tell us which two colleges they're thinking about. Actually, they do many more. Usually they end up exploring tools on Naviance. They also work on obtaining employment. Many of you have participated in job interviews, help students see what it would be like to sit down with a future employer and talk about themselves and what their background really brings to that employment situation. They do cover letters. Sorry, I need water. They build resumes, and that interview is a real nice piece to culminate each semester off with. We also spend a lot of time on financial literacy. This is a piece, though Washington State put together rules around making sure that each district has goals around financial literacy. The truth is, this is a component that came from student interest. Years ago, we spent time with students, and what they said to us is, we need to know what's going to happen in the future. Why don't we talk about credit? Why don't we talk? Oh my gosh, that's so nice of you. I was like, ugh. Thank you. Oh. Okay. Thank you so much. It came from student interest. We sat with groups of students and they told us that they wanted to learn more about it. So we went about finding curriculum that matched some of the topics that they brought up in those meetings. And then in the future, from that moment, it really aligned with what the state was looking for all districts to do. This is an area we continue to grow. Even things that are listed here like payment apps, peer-to-peer payment apps, are hugely important when we talk about being safe with our money. With that, I don't want to restate what was already shared in the superintendent's remarks, but we do have high school and beyond events, and these are great events. Cascade last week, tomorrow we have Jackson, and then a during the day event at Everett High School, which is really remarkable because students get to come in groups, walk around and visit tables. There's employers as well. There's community organizations. There's some of the ways that we organize our schools there to help support them. So lots of ways that students can get access to understanding what might be options for the future, and also a time for families to come in. And all of these include families, and we invite everyone to attend. We do have childcare, we have interpreter services, there's food, there's lots of excitement. Even the why is there. There's lots of other pieces to it that are always trying to share opportunities in our community. I really wanted to share this, the Guaranteed Admission Program. This is new. We started it last year, largely as a pilot, but what this is guaranteeing students who meet those college academic distribution requirements and GPA requirements, which I also highlighted, that if they do those two things, that they are automatically admitted. That is no longer the barrier, like, would I be admitted? They're automatically admitted to 8 different universities. And so we have a partnership through the Council of Presidents with 6 of our state universities, and so you can see them there: Central Eastern, Evergreen, University of Washington, Tacoma, not Bothell yet, although I did ask them. They said it's in the works. Washington State University and Western, and then we have 2 independent agreements, and one of them was with Pacific Lutheran University, and that GPA requirement is 3.3, and we also have St. Martin's University. What we saw, and if you can imagine, I'm always highlighting the number, we see just short of 1,300 graduates. So in the 12s, we just saw short of half of our seniors who are already admitted. So that has just happened. Some of those letters and emails have gone out, some of which will go out next week. I received notification from St. Martin's today. And this means that if they are interested in taking the school up on that offer, all they have to do is apply. Also in the works is Washington State University, Everett. They're going to start some direct admission programs right here with our district. And so starting later this year, we will have events where they will sit with students who are interested, who have a 2.5 GPA or greater. And if they're interested in being directly admitted to WSU Everett, and they will take some classes at Everett Community College, they'll be admitted with many scholarships as well. Another unique piece that was highlighted actually a few weeks here ago is our Gear Up program, and that we have a year 7 program. Normally after 6 years, the program is restarted. There's a new application process, but this particular program went for 7 years, which means that we have an additional year. 2 key parts to this program. One is that we will support students who have gone to Everett Community College this year, who graduated in the spring at Everett High School. And so we're able to provide them tutoring, advising, support on how to handle being a student, and things like, how do I get housing? Who do I go talk to about financial aid? This is where students get lost in the process. So we support them. We also added on, even after this presentation was built, that we can support Running Start students there as well through that program. So that's an added benefit. The other piece to year 7 is our class of 2024. So we've got this special year where we got to do all of our great Gear Up support activities at Everett High for a single year for that particular class. And so what that really means is they also get tutoring. They have AP exams paid for that we don't normally able to pay, Running Start fees that we wouldn't have, FAFSA and WASFA completion support, lots of high school and beyond plan pieces are supported through that program as well. So with that, there's lots of next steps. I get really excited about all of this work, and I could go on. So next steps for us is we're going to continue to support students and ensure that we provide equitable services to all of our students to ensure that they can meet and achieve their high school and beyond plans. We want to expand access to worksite learning opportunities and career exploration, because that feeds into their ideas for the future. We want to further develop our partnerships with many of our colleges and universities, our community organizations, businesses, so that students can really find those pathways after graduation. And then we want to strengthen our best practices to support post-secondary enrollment. So continue to support the FAFSA and WASFA completion. Our high school and beyond events are really standout events in supporting families. And then we also have financial aid advising days, which are also a legislative piece, but really we make it our own and really support kids in sharing information. And then mostly, I want to continue that we celebrate students meeting and achieving their goals, because they do that in lots of different ways and always surprising us with what they share. So with that, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Willard. Are there any questions from Director of Student Rep? Yes, Director Mason.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for your enthusiasm with this work. You
Sorry.
know,
I'll tone it down.
I feel like more and more we're not looking at graduation as the end game. You know, it's the continuum, and this definitely speaks to that. I had a couple questions. One was, do we have a goal for the FAFSA completion in terms of? Uh-oh, now I need my water.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I did that to everyone, I'm sure.
But in terms of what we would optimally like to see, it's a federal program. So I'm wondering if there's any research done on the correlation between enrollment trends and those completion rates.
There is a lot of research around FAFSA completion. We were in the pilot actually through the Department of Education before we could readily get the data through our state. And that data shows that it is a leading indicator. It's not one-to-one, as you can see in our own data, but you can see the ups and downs match our ups and downs in terms of post-secondary enrollment. It typically is lower because students will still go on and apply and not put in their financial aid application for lots of different reasons. Our goal is about 75%, because with that, we would see probably another increase, a sizable increase in terms of students applying, we have admission, applying, and then accessing the aid and programs that are available at those schools.
Yeah.
'Cause that means a lot of
So
different
about
places.
75.
Yeah.
My own kids did not complete it. And
Yeah.
so I know there's reasons why certain families wouldn't.
Yep.
And then on the gap, do we have any way of tracking who actually takes advantage of that?
We do, actually. I was just sitting down. So because we have Naviance and because we track college applications, we are actually pulling data to find out if students have triggered the transcript requests and some other pieces.
Okay.
We've also started conversations with those institutions to tell us, because we have data sharing agreements, as to whether students are actually completing those. The letters, the emails just went out, so it's a little bit early, but we're very excited to see
There
this.
will be opportunities to see data
to
on
check
that.
in, to prompt students, to make sure they understand what this is, because in a way it's so novel that, and I have seen students doing this, like, is this a joke? Is this serious? What do I have to do to really get this? Are they, because this is a whole new idea about how to actually being admitted to a post-secondary program.
Yeah. And then I did have one clarifying question. Technical colleges. So how do we track students that, for example, are in the Core Plus program at, say, Cascade, and they get an offer from Boeing post high school graduation to continue their training at a place like Boeing? That's different than a technical college,
Yes,
right?
it is.
And do we have any way of, is that a small percentage, or is it just untrackable, or do we know anything about?
We don't
programs
know
like that?
exactly, except for when those businesses share data that they're seeing. There are some large partners that do sometimes share that, but it is not data that is collected.
Yeah. So okay. So it
Yeah.
wasn't.
I wish
in
it were.
this
It could-
mix,
it
but-
could fill in
so
some of the
there are
holes.
some students doing things like going directly into
Absolutely.
programs in workforce.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd like to piggyback on that question. That question is, do we know the number of kids that complete the Core Plus program there at Cascades and then are going right into the community and as far as workforce?
We do track the number of students who complete our Core Plus program. And then we have some information about where they may go on to. And they can fill it out on their high school and beyond plan. However, that can mean a lot of different ways in which they choose to move on. And then we don't have any verified data on the other end, because many of those are programs that aren't in data that we receive back through the National Student Clearinghouse or ERDC. So these are parts of the story that would help us support students, but we don't have that data. So you're welcome.
Quick question. I think the gap, I think, is just a huge mind shift in
Yes.
that whole trajectory. This was on our consent agenda tonight about the Limitless Learning Network grant. It seems to relate to kind of connecting those dots. Can you just speak a little bit about that?
So we were approved for the Limitless Learning Network grant. It's through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. What it allows us to do for the next 4 years is to get professional development and support services and a sum of money so that our school district, Everett Community College, and the College Success Foundation can work together to support students in meeting their post-secondary enrollment goals. And so some of that will mean supporting kids in going to Everett Community College, but moreover, it's going to help us with FAFSA completion, college applications overall. I have commitments from those two other organizations to help students do that, so that we have a lot more advising and counseling, because you can't have enough people with the expertise, because they are going to bring people with expertise in that area to support our families and our students in that. So a lot of great pieces ahead.
Director Mitchell.
I guess I just have a bias towards PLU. So just because I went there, so I'm glad to see them on that. And the fact that I'm here because of my roommate, who is an Everett High grad. So and the fact, I don't recall it being called out. Yes, that high number, but PLU had that added requirement, and we've talked a lot about, wanting a 3.0, but the 3.3, and to have almost a quarter of last year's graduating class be there.
That's right.
I think that's great, and that's just this fall, this is just from their spring data last year, so it's just sort of not even fall data when they might actually need to apply if they've got that last push or whatever. But I guess my question is more philosophical, that looking at some of that data for the different groups and the inability to aspire for college, or that they're not actively aspiring for college, probably has impact too on FAFSA, because if you can't aspire, then you're not going to complete a form that helps find money for college. But at the same time, we push so much on our 16, 17-year-olds to decide their future versus here's the next thing. And how do we help them see that just, filling out the FAFSA, it's just a step. And how do we see them that applying to a college is just a step, just sort of like I love doing the interviews. I mean, it's a step. Those kids might not actually interview for a job for 4 years, but they're completing a step that is somewhere in their background, and to know that at any point they can change trajectory, and that we give them the grace and we give them the freedom to do that, instead of, just from my own experience with my daughter, she felt sometimes locked into whatever she put in Naviance. And I know we've worked so hard to make that malleable, and but how do we, it's a bigger question, that aspiration probably will lead to FAFSA, but then also your aspiration might change. And so how do we reconcile all of that? It's a bigger question you probably can answer today, but it's, some of this is rah, and some of it's like, okay.
I think that's the tension that we will always have, right? Because you want kids to have some ideas about their future, and at the same time, you want to coach them to know that it's going to take first steps, that they're going to change their mind, that they don't know where their path is going to lead them, and that it's okay to do it that way. And so I think that what they see is that even in Naviance, where we have Road Trip Nation, it's a series now there's 5,000 different videos, but in each of those is a story about how somebody said they wanted to do fill in the blank, whatever that is, and then life took over and they made some other choices, and they found themselves somewhere else where they felt fulfilled, or they excelled, or whatever it is that meant something to them, and they tell that story. And our career speakers that we have come into our classes and building that story, because they will have their own story. And so we want them to be okay with their own story, and just give them enough tools so they can get there.
So I just met a cardiologist from the University of Washington that has a Bachelor in Business Administration, and then decided to become a cardiologist.
Go figure.
That is a long on-ramp. So it is just for kids to know that, he thought he knew what he wanted to do at 17, and now at 32, he's completely different. And it does sometimes take that time. And just for our kids to know that it takes that time, and it's okay that it takes that time. So thank you. I think it's great. And I think that we have our work cut out for us this year. So thanks to everyone.
Definitely. Thank you.
Student Rep Kink, do you have any questions?
Not at the moment, no, it all sounded pretty good.
Maybe next year when you're a senior, you'll have very specific questions for me. I want to highlight one thing. Because of the GAP program, part of the conversation we have with students is that just because you didn't meet the guaranteed admission program GPA does not mean that the schools would not accept you.
That's true.
Because I would want to make sure, especially if anybody's watching this, that is not the cutoff for those particular institutions to select you or not. That was just their assurance that we're good. You say they're good, we're good. And so we went through a whole process on that. But students can certainly apply and not have that GPA or other requirements. And it's more holistic than that. So there's many open doors there. Even if that was not the first one to come open, there are many options.
I'd like, now that you led into that, I had a question regarding slide 13, in which you mentioned high school GPA less than 3.0. And you look at the disparities of those not enrolling into post-secondary education. And those that do, you know, the lower end, the 30% is the number of kids that will go on. But there are a lot of kids that don't have 3.0 GPA. What are we doing within the district to ensure that kids are given the opportunities early on in middle school to take the required courses necessary to allow them to be prepared to take the higher courses or even courses to continue to maintain a 3.0 or better, since that's the GPA that indicates, you know, through the GAP program that you can go on to college.
I think a lot of our work around the middle school reorganizing for this year with the 6 period days, but also many courses that are aligned so that students can see pathways. And even if they are just dabbling, they can try some things out. They have opportunities for some early high school credits, but experiences that they can build on so that they can start to choose something that is of high interest to them. As you can imagine, when a student is engaged, that impacts their GPA, right? And there's a lot that we can do around that. There's lots of reasons behind GPAs, but definitely making sure that we're engaging, making sure students have options for rigorous course taking definitely starts in middle school, but we have lots of on-ramps and a lot of our summer programs, a lot of what we do to make sure that our 9th grade success teams, making sure we focus on kids as soon as they come into high school, are all about making sure kids can see themselves in those on-ramps. So we do a lot of coaching with kids.
Right. Because if we aren't preparing the kids in middle school for the ability to take those classes in high school, they're not going to be part of the group that are getting 3.0. I mean, they could be getting 3.0 or better GPA, but then we have to ask ourselves the questions, are they prepared? Are they taking the right courses that will give them many on-ramps into post-secondary education? I'd like to go back to the guaranteed if I can.
Of course.
When you look, would there be any other avenues or potentials for them, the students not being able to attend those, even if they had a 3.0 or better GPA, those schools?
Are you asking, are there other reasons why they may not apply or actually attend those or select to?
Or would not be accepted? You know, they could apply but not be accepted because of whatever reasons. And the question I have is, what other reasons could there be if a kid had a greater than 3.0 and they assume that I'm guaranteed to go to the University of Washington, Tacoma if I don't choose to, don't apply anywhere else. I know I'm gonna go there if I, you know, go, but yet they apply and then they aren't accepted.
They're accepted. It's actually guaranteed.
It's guaranteed.
It's guaranteed. Yeah, I don't know how else. I had to listen to make sure there wasn't enough. It's actually guaranteed. Yes.
It's guaranteed.
It's guaranteed.
So there's no reason for any of our kids not to go to one of the four-year universities.
That's right.
Or financial.
Financial. They could have personal
that's a big
or not
reason.
want to move or any of those things, but being actually admitted or not, that part is taken care of.
What a wonderful thing.
I know. It's very cool.
What a wonderful thing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
We have a long meeting tonight. I don't know if some of you realize. At this particular point in our junction, I would like to take a 10-minute break. So I know that Mr. Gunn, you're up next, but let's hold off for 10 minutes so we can give our students or anybody here on the dais an opportunity to take a break. Thank you.
And to give it a little bit of water. Sorry.
Moderator.
Yeah, I know. We will now reconvene. Our next speaker is Mr. Mike Gunn on enrollment updates as of October 1st.
That was quite an accomplishment. Thank you.
You did it. You did it.
I did it. Well, good evening. Tonight, I'm providing to you a brief update on the enrollment based on the preliminary October 1, 2023 enrollment counts. I use the word preliminary because we actually report to OSPI later in October what we believe the final October 1 count is, and it does change a little bit. And then OSPI, once they publish it, it becomes our final October 1 count. So we use the word preliminary until then. I'm going to jump right in and say that we have some good news for you tonight. We have an actual increase in enrollment of 30 students from last year. So our year-over-year count from October 1 last year to October 1 this year is 30 students increase.
Good.
You may remember last year we actually had a decrease. I think it was 54 students decline. So it's really good news. Our mid-range projections is that we would have a slight decline of about 23 students. So the real good news is not only did we increase by 30, but we thought we were going to decline by 23. So the total number of really good news is 53 students. There is a longer enrollment presentation to you in March. I think it's March 12, and that's where we will present to you the a full look at the projections for the future. Tonight, we're just sharing with you what the October 1 counts are this year, and so it should be a fairly brief presentation. So let's get on with it. Just a reminder here that the enrollment drives over 60% of our total general fund revenues and directly affects staffing levels. It is critical to our capital bond and levy planning. Boundary revisions come from our enrollment, actual experienced enrollment.
Yes.
Portable classroom locations, property management, property acquisition, and our capital facilities plan, which also impacts our impact fee amounts that we collect from housing developments. And then of course, it also affects program locations, instructional and other programs, and then also decisions about whether or not to approve transfers to different schools for students. So enrollment is critical to our operations. And it's really important to be as accurate as we can with our enrollment projections. So this is the information I have to share to you tonight. Les Kendrick is, as you know, is a consultant that we use and have used for a long time. OSPI, so he does enrollment projections for us. He does a high, medium, and low range projection. And then OSPI does a projection as well. And we use the medium range projection typically to predict facilities needs, and that's because we want to make sure that we have the facilities there when the students come. For budgeting purposes, we tend to use a low range projection, sometimes in between the mid-range and the low range projection. That's where our budget numbers usually come from, and that's because we don't want to really overestimate our enrollment, because then we'll have to deal with a deficit there at some point. So what you see is that our medium range projection was 53 students different than the actual enrollment. So we came in 53 students higher than our medium range projection. We came in 264 students higher than our low range projection. And then we came in 163 students higher than the OSPI projections. So as you can tell, one thing that this indicates is that the most accurate projection this year was our medium range projection, and we'll go into that here in a few minutes. We have another slide on that. But I did want to mention that the budgeted amount, the amount that we budgeted was $19,479, which is, again, it's in between our medium and our low range projections. So this slide is going to give you some information. It's probably just going to be kind of the tip of the iceberg in terms of what you may want to see at some point from enrollment analysis of our enrollment. So I'm going to talk to you about who is and who is not included in the October 1 counts that I just gave you. Our, again, preliminary enrollment counts include 88 students enrolled at Port Gardner, 317 students living outside the district and attending schools inside the district. And our preliminary enrollment counts do not include 1,265 students living inside the district and attending students outside the district. 488 students who have submitted a declaration of intent to homeschool. They're also not included in our enrollment counts. Last year, you had some questions about the homeschool numbers, so we've included those on this slide. And the number that we're looking at this year, 488, is actually indicating a downward trend on the counts. I think that the total number of students living inside the district and attending students outside the district is also not increasing. I think if you look back over time, it's not much different than the last couple of years, but before that, it's actually a decrease from what we saw. And so certainly there are a lot of those students that live inside the district and attending outside are due to the parents working in other school districts. And there are a lot of schools that the students go to, and special programs and virtual programs as well. So there's a lot of information out there available. But I only covered a brief update for you here today. This actually will show you it shows you the actual numbers last year. So a total of 19,579 a year ago. Our projections, medium range projections, were a total of 19,556. Again, the October 1 preliminary count this year is 19,609. The difference from last year is 30 students, and the difference from what we projected with the mid-range projection was 53 students. This slide here shows the accuracy, and it compares the low range and the mid-range accuracy, Les Kendrick's mid-range and low range. The reason that we've done that is because during COVID and for the last 4 years prior to this year, the low range projections were more accurate than the mid-range. What you're seeing this year is a kind of a return to pre-COVID and a kind of a return to normal in a sense, because we are seeing now that the mid-range projections are more accurate than the low-range projections. And so that is a pretty significant thing that we're seeing. There was a couple more things I wanted to say. Last year, Les Kendrick's projections, the mid-range projections, showed that we would be increasing after 2024. And so he actually projected a decline this year. We've seen, instead of a decline, we've seen an increase. It may indicate that we're going to start that trend of increasing sooner than 2024. and that his projections also indicated that we would reach pre-COVID levels, so gain back the enrollment that we lost during COVID by about 2029. So those were what Les Kendrick was predicting last year. We will tell you in March when we do our presentation what his updated projections are based on the fact that we've grown this year instead of declined. All right, so the next steps, you've heard this many times, I'm sure, over the years. But what we do from October to February is that we use the October 1 enrollment counts to predict what enrollment will be in the future, and our consultant looks out about 10 years. OSPI also updates their projections. We also send one of our staff members to every school to evaluate, to visit every classroom in the school and to update our capacity calculations for each school. And then in the spring, we match the enrollments with the capacities and use that to predict where we're going to need portable classrooms and other things. So we also, from February to June, then we use it for decision-making around staffing and budgeting, transfers, program locations, facilities planning, and portables. So that happens based on the enrollment projection updates and the capacity calculations that we do. And then about 11 months from now, in September of next year, we will adjust staffing levels based on the actual enrollment, just like we did last month. That concludes my presentation. Brief update. Again, you'll see a more complete one in March. And I'm available here right now to answer any questions you might have.
Directors. Director Herman.
Yeah, a quick question on that 1265 students in the district going out is where do we see private school enrollment? Is that when you say like physically outside the district, or could that be to some of our private schools located in the district?
So I'll give you some information that I anticipated that there might be some questions about that. Let's see. It's right there. So the first thing that I would mention is that if you go back 4 years, that number was about 1,430. Then it went to 1,614 during COVID. The next year in 21 to 22, it was 1,243. And then last year was about 1226. So it's been relatively the same for the last couple of years, but 2 or 3 years prior to that, it was higher than that. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what that is doing over the last 4 or 5 years. So that 1,265, 813 of those students are enrolled in regular K-12 programs in other school districts. 365 are enrolled in virtual programs, and 87 are enrolled in alternative programs. So those 813 students enrolled in regular K-12 programs in other school districts, I counted them up there. There's like 20 or 25 other school districts that they go to. Obviously, the ones that most of them, I mean, the majority, the biggest draw out there is Snohomish School District. Glacier Peak High School is still accepting transfers. In North Shore School District, their high school down there, North Creek High School, is closed to transfers, but even so, they have about 30. Glacier Peak is getting 287 high school students that live here. So it's not like the majority of that 1,265 are high school. It's spread out across grade levels, and it goes to a variety of virtual and alternative programs, as well as K-12 public education.
I guess I just have a question. I know we talked about it in the spring, but appreciate the number of if it is real, the 534 to 488 of parents that are sending their kids back to our schools. If that is like maybe where some of that 30 or 53 came from. But I guess I have met several people that do homeschool because their values and their thoughts for their children's learning are not aligned with the public school system. But the 88 students at Port Gardner, I guess it's just every opportunity for those 488 to know that a system like Port Gardner exists for them versus that completely being separate. And it's not about the head count and the money, but it is just sort of what are their students learning and what we have to offer. And so it is just not for you to worry about, but I just really wonder for the community
Yes.
that 488, if their values and their what they want to teach their kids really is aligned differently than us, absolutely fair, but maybe they aren't aware fully of what Port Gardner has to offer for a homeschooling program. So
Thank you.
just a statement.
Any further comments? Director Mason.
So I learned something tonight that do we use two different enrollment numbers, one for facilities and one for budgeting?
Yes.
Okay, that seems strange that we can't come to a decision on how many students are going to show up in our district in the following year. And I guess my concern after reading the article about Seattle yesterday, and we are 130 students off our budgeted head count, which is a significant amount of money. And my only concern, and it's a question not to be answered tonight or for you specifically, but how does that impact our schools in September and October when we have 130 more students and we haven't planned the staffing, both teachers and, do we overpack classes too much? Do we have to split classes? Or, I've read some comments online. I've heard from one parent about moving students. I know that's a normal part of business. It happens every year. The question is just how much is it happening this year when we underestimate our enrollment so much? And that would be maybe a conversation at some other point. I might be able to get a little information on that, because that's my concern with under budgeting student enrollment. So that's it. That was just my comment. Thank you
And
for your
I would
information.
say, we will provide that information too. I know that our district, we do pay attention to those issues, and I think that we have done a really good job over the last 4 or 5 years on that. And I believe that we'll have some information
Yeah,
for you.
it's,
at the upcoming meeting,
it's certainly
yes.
been hard projecting enrollment the last several years. And, it looks like maybe we're kind of getting back to a more normal process of how we used to do it. And we've always been very good. I'm always impressed with how close we get it. But, I want to make sure that we're causing the least disruptions to our students and families
Certainly.
in September and October as
Yes.
possible. So thank you.
Student Rep King, do you have any questions?
No.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
You're welcome.
Mr. Gunn. We shall now move into section 14.0, which is unfinished business. There are no unfinished business items for this meeting. We shall now move to section 15.0, which is new business, and we have a slew of policies.
That time of year.
Mr. Fleckenstein, we are awaiting your slew of policy.
All right, well, good evening. Proposed revisions to policy 2215, highly capable programs, comply with Senate Bill 5072. This new legislation requires changes to the referral and screening process for highly capable student programs to make them more equitable. The legislation establishes the mandatory use of universal screenings. The legislation also requires that referrals be available for all grades, not just those being universally screened. And you can see those particular revisions here in green as you go through the program itself. WASDA, pardon me, I lost my place. The legislation here, what is presented to you, complies directly with the law as closely and tightly as possible. The proposed revisions have previously been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Directors, any questions?
I just have one question. So it's really about that self-contained. We have self-contained, highly capable programs, but a number of other districts don't. So the law doesn't say it has to be self-contained, it's that we choose to make them self-contained classrooms.
You are correct. The law is not prescriptive on a particular model.
Thank you.
With no questions or further questions, we'll move this on to second reading. Very well. Thank you. We'll move this on to second reading. We'll now move to the next policy.
Next, we have proposed new policy 2230, transition to kindergarten, which complies with House Bill 1550. OSPI is currently adopting emergency rules for the 23-24 school year and will adopt permanent rules the following year. Part of the passage of 1550 is the requirement of school districts running a transition to kindergarten program to adopt a policy. In this particular instance, WASD has developed a new model policy, which we're presenting to you this evening, that reflects this year's emergency rules, and we'll be able to update this policy once permanent rules have been put into place. New policy 2230, transition to kindergarten, has been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet.
I just have one question.
Go right ahead.
And maybe it's also for Director Herman, but I do believe legislation last year was proposed or did change what transition to kindergarten does, which lowered what we do. So is this policy just having a policy of what we do, or is it a policy aligning with the potentially lowered standards than what we do? And I don't know who is best to answer that, or if I've asked that weirdly.
I can attempt to answer that. If we were to run this school year a transition to kindergarten program, we were required under the law to adopt a policy around that complies with not only the current law as it was written through House Bill 1550, but also with the emergency rules written by OSPI. By the end of this school year, OSPI is required to have permanent rules in place, which will revise this particular policy and then set forth what transition to kindergarten programs will look like in the future.
But for now, this school year, we get to do transition to kindergarten, how we've done it in the past. This is just a policy about what we do.
That's my understanding.
Thank you. I see a nod from others. Okay, thank you. I like our high standards.
Any further questions, comments? We shall now move this to second reading. Thank you. Proceed on.
Next, we have proposed revisions to policy 2215, to policy 2334, substance abuse prevention program, which comply with House Bill 1230 regarding schools' public health information. This new legislation requires school districts to maintain a prominent link on the district homepage, as well as the homepage of each school within the district, to information from the Department of Health about substance use trends, overdose symptoms and response, and the secure storage of prescription drugs, over-the-counter medications, and firearms and ammunition. This legislation also requires school districts to make the Department of Health information accessible through communications on the district's social media channels. The required information postings must occur at least quarterly. On our homepage, under the Report Assistance button that looks like a triangle with an exclamation point in it, is where you will find the information we are now obliged to post, and it complies with the law. Proposed revisions to policy 2334 have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet.
I have a question. You mentioned something in regards to the use of firearms. There's nothing in here that mentions that.
No, to clarify, what I said is the law requires us to post information about the secure storage of firearms and ammunition. That link is provided on our website under the report assistance page.
Okay, got you. But it does not have to be spelled out in this particular policy.
It only requires us to post information on the secured storage of firearms and ammunition.
Okay.
And that's the information link we have on our page.
Okay, gotcha. Director Herman.
Quick question, the new language about the evaluation of the effectiveness of the program, that is new. Do we already have something in place for that? What does that look like?
No, we are currently developing a system of evaluation based on this particular policy with our student services department, who would oversee and monitor that work. Once it's prepared, we will bring that to the superintendent's cabinet and then provide an update in the Friday report.
I was going to jump in on that. I had sent you an email on that. I'm just very curious how we assess the scope of the problem and what that looks like. So that'll be great when we'll have a chance to look at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? We shall move this to second reading.
Next, we have changes to policy 2410. This particular policy updates the graduation requirements, emergency rate waiver, or GRU language, and removes out-of-date graduation requirement language for the class of 2020. Revisions also comply with House Bill 1536, which limits school districts' authority to withhold a student's high school diploma because the student lost or willfully damaged district property. Specifically, the legislation limits the withholding of a diploma when damages exceed $1,000 and requires school districts to release a student's diploma after 5 years or until the amount owed is less than $1,000, whichever comes earlier. It does not impact the sending of transcripts for college admission. Policy 4210 has been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet.
Thank you very much for the clarification of sending transcripts. I appreciate that. Are there any further questions? Yes, Director Herman.
Curious about the damage withholding diplomas and such. How often does that actually come into play for us here in Everett?
It's not common. And we usually, one of the provisions that I will speak to in the next policy revision around student fines and fees relates to the fact that there's restitution that a student can do to work off the debt, but usually we find some way to make that happen in a timely manner so we're not having to withhold it.
Are there any, Director Mason?
I had a question regarding the emergency waiver, the GRU, and it looks like that went from 2 to 1 this year, that's a change. But I was actually quite surprised that you can graduate with a total of 21 credits versus the 24 that are required at the state level. Do we have a sense of, I know that I think Dr. Woods had given a presentation that it happens very infrequently, but does anyone know roughly how many students graduate with 21 credits versus 24?
That particular information would be collected through the schools, through our college and career readiness department. We have to keep detailed records of exactly how students have met graduation requirements.
So maybe as a follow-up.
We can get you that number.
That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? We shall move this to second reading. Thank you.
The next two policies are also related to the revisions to comply with House Bill 1536. So the proposed revisions to policy 3520, student fees, fines, and charges, comply with House Bill 1536, limiting school districts' authority to withhold a student's high school diploma due to an fine in excess of $1,000. Additionally, the legislation provides that the district must credit the monetary value of a student's community service or restitution towards damages, whatever is greater in terms of minimum wage, whether it's the local minimum wage or the state's minimum wage. So as we do restitution programs, they're working those hours, we would credit them for the higher of the minimum wage for their work. Proposed revisions to policy 3520, student fees, fines, and charges have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet.
Are there any questions? We shall move this on to second reading. Thank you.
And finally, this evening, also related to the passage of House Bill 1536, is policy 3600, student records, which limits school districts' authority to withhold a student's high school diploma because the student willfully lost or damaged district property, as I previously described in this presentation this evening. These revisions have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions, concerns? We shall move this on to second reading. Thank you.
Thank you.
Since Mr. Fleckenstein has finished his slew of policies, we shall go on to the next item, which is upcoming agenda item, section 16.0. Dr. Saltzman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and the public this evening. At the October 12th special meeting, board members will conduct school board director finalist interviews and final selection. At our regular meeting on October 24th, 2023, the board agenda will contain the following: presentation for annual student achievement, several policies for review, oath of office for newly appointed board member, fiscal outlook and preliminary year-end update, Jackson Elementary School Site Design Review and Education Specifications Approval, highly capable program grant, and the Puget Sound Taxpayer Accountability Account interlocal agreement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saltzman. We'll now move to section 17.0. After the adjournment of this meeting, the board will be in a closed session to discuss bargaining sessions. At this point in time, we will go up to section 18.0, which is adjournment. This concludes the business scheduled to come before the Board of Directors during this meeting. Thank you all for attending.